Hello, everyone. Have you ever heard the phrase, when you are ready, or when the time is right? This morning I was watching the news, and there was a restaurant owner up in Maine in the United States featured for her restaurant, and she has become like one of the top restaurants in the country, I believe. And it was an amazing, very inspirational story. She grew up with a father who was a chef, and she herself became a chef, but she never went to school. She just learned from childhood. And the restaurant culture is absolutely a welcoming atmosphere, an amazing selection of food that she prepares from things in the ocean like lobster and oysters. And she adds personal touches with vegetation grown around her restaurant. And it was truly just an amazing story. But whenever I see something like that, I start to question myself, and I start to feel like, where have I gone wrong in life? Where have I failed? Why don't I have something like that? What's holding me back? Now, this particular person said, her inspiration came from her childhood working with her dad in a restaurant, but she always had the passion, the drive, and the vision, and she envisioned this like her whole life. So for her, it is a success story. It's a happy ending. But for many of us, including myself, we sit back and watch others achieve all their dreams while we wait, and we're told, when the time is right, it will be your time someday. One day you'll have that. But sometimes it never comes. A lot of us have passion, confidence, drive, motivation. We may be disciplined. We may or may not be outgoing. However, that doesn't always equate to a successful ending, like in the case of this news story I watched. So if that is true, and we all possess some of those qualities, if not all of them, then why do some people seem to be given a path forward, or, work very hard, but still given the opportunity, where other people sit back and wait and the day never comes and they're never given anything? It seems like the speedometer of life accelerates for a few chosen few. We watch as others pass us by. They grow their bank accounts, they grow their savings, they grow their net worth, but we show little for our accomplishments and achievements. Unlike the successful people, and we wonder in amazement. We admire folks. How did they do it? What am I lacking? I know I'm not lacking the motivation. I know I'm not lacking the drive. Why do they get to go ahead so far in life and watch their own income grow while I'm stuck slaving away at a $20 an hour or less job, or perhaps working for minimum wage, and I cannot get ahead no matter what I do? I decided I wanted to learn more. So I watched this news article in its entirety, and I watched the owner with charismatic leadership, managing time efficiently, leading her team into every single day with morning meetings. It was like watching myself as a perfectionist, because I have perfectionist tendencies, and I know a lot of you do as well. So it really was like watching that side of me, that part of me that takes a hold of something and goes for it and is in charge and is in a leadership position. But yet, why doesn't my life, why doesn't your life end up on a front page news story where you're actually the number one of something in the whole country? If it comes down to vision and planning our life with purpose, or trying to find the meaning of life, or trying to find our purpose in life, then why do some believe that having a purpose in life is psychologically damaging? So it gets confusing. On one hand, this restaurant owner seems driven with purpose, but on the other hand, we're told having a purpose in life is psychological warfare, and you might never ever experience true fulfillment in your life if you strive for having a purpose. Nobody talks about, okay, so if we are supposed to have a purpose, how do we do it? If we're not supposed to have a purpose, how do we do it? We're kind of stuck in limbo in between. between these two ideals. Another misconception is people will say, well, do what you love. But even then, even if you love it, it does not guarantee success. It does not guarantee that vision you had for your life. It does not guarantee a higher paycheck. It does not guarantee job security. This restaurant owner I saw, she said, the difference is I live my life without fear, not afraid of making mistakes. I'm not afraid of failure because that's how I learn. And that's how I got to where I am today. And that's what this very successful restaurant owner said. The result isn't the same across the board. We're all living without fear, living our best life, but somebody goes to number one and we all can't be number one. The one thing that stood out to me, aside from all of this motivational talk, was that the customers said when they go to this restaurant, their family, they feel like they are part of the team. Everybody there is working together, not at each other. When a star goes out on stage, like a singer, very famous singer is on tour, she goes out on stage, he goes out on stage, he starts singing. When I was thinking about these famous singers that go out on tour on stage, do you really think they're out there knowing all the praise, admiration, followers on social media, all the hype, all the money they have in the world? Do you think they're really going out there for validation? Do you think they're really going out there to say, hey, look at me, I'm so great? No, they already know they stand out from the crowd. That's why they sing. That's why they're famous. They already know that. Not all of us can be famous. So they already know that they don't need validation. They don't need excessive praise. They don't need somebody to go up and tell them, you're good, you're great, you're one of the best. Now, we all need money to live. So of course, they're doing it for the pay. Yes, that is one reason. But do you honestly think they're making up songs about, boyfriends, girlfriends, breakups, hardships? Think about country songs. Sometimes my life sings like a country song. My dog died, this happened, the neighbor was mean. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all have like that country song in us where we're out there every single day just trying to live. But it does seem like it can be a country song at some point. And that's what I'm saying here. The singers sing about us. They're not out there singing about their own woes, their own problems, their own, marital bliss or the lack thereof. They're out there singing to us. They're out there because it makes us feel good. It makes us enjoy their music. Now call it genius marketing, but it's true. They're doing it for us. They're not doing it for themselves in a way of seeking validation. They're doing it for money, yes. But they're doing it for everybody that goes to their shows, their fans, their followers. Think about all the obstacles you've had in your way. Think about all the health issues you've had in your way. Think about all the setbacks. Think about everything you've done. Think about all that. Did any of these things set you back? And what happened on the other side of that? We often talk about pets when they pass, they go over Rainbow Bridge. Okay, so think about that. Where is your Rainbow Bridge today? Hypothetically, right? Not literally, but think about everything I just said, everything you've been through, good and bad, and in between. Is there a pot of gold waiting for you at the end of the rainbow? Or you got over there and it was like a patch of dirt and you fell down thinking, this is what's on the other side of the rainbow? I went through all this for this? Most of us do not have a pot of gold waiting after a rainstorm at the end of a rainbow. We all make mistakes. We all fail. But a lot of us are afraid of failure. That's the irony here. When I was a little kid, my grandfather used to teach me this valuable lesson. He always said to me, you can't cry over spilled milk. Just go on with yourself and do whatever you were doing. Don't stop. Don't let it hinder you. Don't let it keep you from the prize. If I messed up, if I made a mistake, if I did something that wasn't good, that's what he would say. Try again, try harder, just get back up on your feet. Don't sit there and blubber about it. Don't sit there and worry yourself. Get up and keep moving, keep doing, keep going. And if you make a mistake, you fall down again, get up again. And that is to the point of this restaurant owner, how she says she's not afraid of failure because Every time she's made a mistake, she's learned from it. Think about this. When I volunteered with the fire department, I was on the canteen truck and I served refreshments to fire personnel, police personnel, victims, okay? Fires, car accidents, stuff like that. But then we had a training day. And it was a mass casualty training day at an airport. Multiple fire departments came from within other communities. There were probably a couple thousand people at this place. And nobody prepared us because that was the point. It was a drill. It was a false alarm. It was to prepare us in the event of an actual emergency and mass casualty situation so that we could point out our flaws. We could point out our failures. We could be prepared in the event something like this occurred. It was to teach us not to be afraid of it, but to run into it. So there I was, early 20s, not knowing anything about life or the world yet. And I'm on that canteen truck, and I'm just swirling the Gatorade powder, and I'm making the coffee pots. And I made a couple of sandwiches for lunch because there were going to be lunch breaks. They were going to stagger them. And I'm just sitting there minding my own business. The morning rush has left. We had picked up 1,000 donuts. Those were all gone. Now, some of the crew on the canteen truck is out there throwing out all the garbage from the morning run. I'm making fresh batches of everything, organizing, taking an inventory, what snacks we have left, what we might need if there was a fire or another tragedy in real life, if we would be ready. And I heard a and I'm standing there and I'm like, and I turn around slowly because I didn't know what was on the other side of that window at the canteen truck. And I turned around. Have you ever seen a National Guard poster? The one that says, "Be all you can be." And it's like a bunch of National Guards people standing in the poster with their uniforms on. And it's an advertisement to go into the National Guard. That is what it looked like. If AI was a thing then, it would have looked like somebody made an AI poster. It was a sea of National Guard people from all over that had come for this training. And they were hungry. And they wanted lunch. Like now. This is what I'm talking about. Oh, we failed in an epic way that day because we didn't know that was going to happen. They threw a wrench at us. We had no idea the National Guard was going to be hungry and at my window in this little truck. There was enough Guard members to pick up the truck and carry me off to a hot dog stand. So I was like, what are we going to do? I didn't have time to fear. I didn't have time to panic. You know why? I admired them. These were people on the front lines. These are heroes, not me. I'm just stirring the Gatorade. And I thought, I can't let them down. They never let us down. So I said, wow, I got to do something quickly. I took out my snack box, which, maybe had 20 or 30 packages of crackers and cheese in there. And I said, oh boy, we're going to need a store run. Got on my walkie, started calling people up. Hey, you got your car here? Run to the supermarket. And in my head, I'm tallying up. Okay, how many people are standing before me? Like 1,000. Okay, 1,000 National Guard members who are starving at this moment. How many pieces of bread is that? How many loaves? How many pieces of bread come in a loaf? Like, this is where I was at. I'm not good in math, but I was calculating. How many loaves of bread is that, And I told my coworker and by the way, we were all volunteers. We weren't paid for this at all. And I was like, just run, because we had the funding from the Salvation Army. So that wasn't the issue, but the issue was the logistics of this. We weren't prepared. We didn't know we were going to be feeding 1,000 people. That's like 2,000 pieces of bread. They went to the store, and thankfully they got help from the manager of the store, who filled a box truck for us and brought it to the canteen truck in record time. I think it was like 15 minutes. Also, the Salvation Army had a helper that delivered massive cans of tuna and mayonnaise. And then the slathering began. We were just like, robotic with that tuna and mayonnaise. Boom, 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 boom. I didn't hear one complaint. Nobody said this was the ickiest sandwich I've ever had. Nobody said, I don't like tuna. Nobody said, I don't like mayonnaise. They ate it. They were hungry. They appreciated it. But you know what's more important? This is the lesson I learned from that. I appreciated the opportunity to serve them. There it is. So, here's some more. We don't get to choose who our family is most of the time. We're born into a family. We're adopted into a family. We're given over to a family, But we don't get to choose who our parents are. We don't get to choose who gives birth to us. We don't get to choose our extended family and relatives. The only ones we get to choose are our immediate people, who we partner with, who we have children with, that kind of thing. But we don't get to choose our families, and sometimes we are born in what feels like the wrong family, like their value system is warped. We aren't raised with the same values we have. I learned that as a child. My elders came from a place in time that was way different from my generation, and their views were warped. Thankfully, the views of the prior generations were kind of changed. Laws were passed. People had done great things over 10, 20, 30 years, decades, okay? But their views remained. They were biased. And I think we all experience that, where we are born into a family that doesn't share our views and values, and they may have different biases. I think we all have some bias, but our biases don't necessarily have to be the same, even in the same family. And I had to be the one that pushed back both sides and just stand in the middle in my own lane. What I did, and it's kind of poetic with what I'm going to share, not literally, just poetic, because I don't want anybody thinking that I actually went to the hardware store to do this. What I did was I didn't get a rake from the garden shed. I got a couple of flatbeds and pickup trucks. I also got some bulldozers and plastic containers. I picked up all the acorns and put them in the tubs for my pet pig at the time. I separated the sticks from the stones into each of the different type of truck beds. And I took that bulldozer and I made a path. I made a clear walkway. I didn't stay stuck in the fallen debris. I became a force my family did not want to reckon with. I made a path forward, separating each side and letting them know I'm not going to have a part in it. And unknowingly, in doing this, I faced my fears. Not knowing I faced my fears, but I did. You might need to distance yourself from it, separating those sticks and stones, so that you can become what you're supposed to become without their intentional destruction in your path. But while they projected and tossed these sticks in my way, I didn't become cold-hearted like them. I became understanding, compassionate, and curious. And today I saw a resemblance within this restaurant owner for the first time in my entire life. I'm in my 50s, mind you. For the first time in my entire life, I realized something. We're all seeking the meaning of life. We're all seeking purpose. But everyone, even somebody handed something. She worked with her dad growing up. We didn't all have that experience. So you could say that, she was given a start in life to this outcome. And that may very well be the case. But despite every obstacle, hindrance, and setback, what is at the root of anyone's determination? Is it their vision? Is it their goals? Is it their mindset? We've been told this. The root of her determination, while it is her passion, it's love. She loves what she does. She loves her guests. Her guests love her. She actually works with her team, and she's very demanding. I mean, when I saw her approach, I thought I would never be like that because I'm just not that way. I don't have a problem delegating, but I'm not somebody that wants to be a bossy boss. And I thought, is that what it takes? Because I guess I don't have it. I guess I will never be successful. We start telling ourselves these things. We start telling ourselves it's our motivation, it's our drive, or lack thereof. We don't have the skill set. We don't have the dreams, the desires, the passions, but we all do. We all seek something more than ourselves. Maybe a successful outcome, maybe a nice car, maybe a bigger house. But at the root of determination is love. When you see somebody living their best life, you see somebody so successful, you admire them. You envy them. You think, wow, I would love to have that. I don't know how to get it. They obviously figured it out. When is my turn? When am I going to figure it out? When you witness and observe their strength, dedication, and discipline, you see their growth. You see them prosper. Unlike the case for many in their own family even, you may be met with impatience, hostility, judgment, finger pointing, blaming, right in your own family, and it holds you back. And you might say, I don't have a bulldozer big enough. There's trees down. There's no sticks. The trees are in my path. I need a chainsaw. While we all desire peace, joy, and respect, we don't always give it. They say you get back what you give out. But that's not always true either. I've seen very, very generous people who nobody takes compassion on when they're down on their luck. So think about this. We don't always give it, but we seek it. We all strive for contentment, even if we feel like we're pursuing excellence. What is excellence if we're not content? What is excellence if we're anxious, worried, fearful? We can all put on a mask and say we strive for excellence. But does that actually mean we're content? Going back to the beginning and what I said is people often say, when you're ready, when it's your time, you will get there, you will do it, you will get it. Talking about the house, the car, the promotion, the more money, the success. But the truth is there is no time frame. It's different for everyone because we're all on our own journey. To prove that point, think about somebody that's 80 that goes back to college and gets their degree. Now think about those yards filled with sticks and stones and acorns and leaves, and you have to push them out of your way. Think about that for a second. Because of that, because you needed to hire a lumberjack to cut down those trees in your path, because you needed to hire the town dump to come out and haul all the debris away, you were able to see and spot somebody else's success and admire them for it because you thought you were lacking, or you thought all of this debris in your path was failure. But going back to that point, most people have problems. They might say, I have excellence in my life, but they still have worry, fear, anxiety, and human emotion because we're all humans. For a lot of us, it's going to come down to not anything we could have done, not anything we could have prepared for. It's going to come down to how you endured, how you handled those sticks, stones, leaves, and acorns, how you handled hiring the people to come and haul it all away out of your path. And then you'll see. When you choose humility, you seek radiance. And that, my friends, is the inner transformation that a lot of us are striving to shine for.